Today I'm posting a speech I just gave at the Government Blockchain Association in Nevada. I spoke about my early roots in the space. In particular, I talk about why it's time to buckle down, start a company, and go extra hard. It's time to make a prediction on the future, on what's going to happen next, and then go after it. If you stick around to the end, you'll also hear about the $50,000 fine I received from New York State while running CoinSetter.
Please welcome Jaron.
Thank you for that great intro. This is going to be a pretty interactive talk, so I want to first start off by just telling you about where I come from in the space and some things that I'm seeing in the space, and then leave most of the time open to answering questions that interest you. As Nadia mentioned, I originally entered the space in 2012. It was the crypto space, which was called the Bitcoin space. At the time, was very different back then. It was mostly, when I entered, it was literally all an online community. So I spent the beginning of my career in this space just building my name up in an online community called Bitcoin Talk. And at the time, it's like you either had credibility or you didn't. Today, there's so many people in the space that it's actually hard to tell who's legit. But at the same time, there are a lot of legit people entering. When, I raised one of the first venture rounds in crypto, and that happened in early 2013 for my company CoinSetter, which was one of the early Bitcoin exchanges in New York. And that was a really important experience for me because it really guides what I do today and how I advise the companies I work with. And through Autonomous Capital, which is actually rebranding to Influential Capital, which really hits the core at what we are working to do and become. I see a lot of people today. We're at a time today when the industry, crypto has crashed. I'm 10 times less wealthy than I was 3 months ago. A lot of people are in the same position, and a lot of people are falling out of the industry. And one of the things that I can really confidently tell you after experiencing this a couple of times is this is the time to actually buckle down and start a company. This is the time to be going extra hard and trying to make your own prediction on what you think is going to happen next. And I'll touch upon that a little bit as well. So in 2013, this space was not a lot of people. We all knew each other. Everyone was either an exchange or a venture capitalist or a wallet. And that made it really tough. I actually enjoy being in the space a lot more now today because not everyone's a competitor. Like we have a commonality in blockchain or crypto, but people are working on all sorts of creative projects. That's not how it was back then. Back then it was really about like driving hard, believing in the future of what crypto could become, which is like if you deal with bank accounts and international wire transfers, and you've ever had like a bank account shut down, you really start to experience some of the problems of our current financial system. A lot people back then, that was our core guiding philosophy. Every year, more people come to understand that these are real problems across the world, and that's why crypto keeps growing every year. So while we do have a pullback today, and while 90% of the companies or more that raised capital over the last 18 months are going to fail, and their tokens should be worthless, there are still great companies out there solving real problems, and every year there are more people who are understanding that our financial system is broken and can't sustain long term, and our political systems and government systems are also broken and can't sustain long term. And so That's why I today get really excited about things like blockchain voting. I spent the first 4 months this year working very closely with a company called Agora that is solving that problem of end-to-end verifiable elections. Amazing! It's amazing to be a part of a mission statement that attacks that. And again, back in 2012 to 2015, really. We didn't have that kind of high quality mission statement. It was still very small, but a lot of great people were also in the industry back then, and a lot of them remain in it today, mostly as investors though. I sold Coinsetter in 2016 to Kraken, which is still one of the leading exchanges today. And through this whole process, I witnessed multiple booms and busts. I witnessed selling a company, and that was, we were selling Coinsetter during the cold winter, the last one. We might be in one again now, but I don't think this one will last as long. You start to see these patterns reemerge in the space, and one of the patterns that I really notice over and over again is you have two classes of people in the space. There's the people who are here for today, and there are the people who are here for tomorrow. Over the last 18 months going to conferences, I met lots of people who are coming in talking about a project they're working on, and the second that the industry starts to contract a little bit, which is natural in any boom bust cycle, those people, they say, I'm going to go do AI. But I actually made the same mistake myself last cycle. I left. I was going to go do AI. I'm not even kidding. And I was lucky enough to have two friends in particular pull me back in early 2017. So we're a year off of my sale to Kraken. And those people are David Waxman and Joseph Kwan. David Waxman lives in New York. Yo actually lives here in Las Vegas. And Yo is actually one of the true leaders in Las Vegas. He is the key influencer who created a blockchain co-working space here in town, where we have 40 or 50 people working out of many companies, and really, I think he's going to give Rob Roy a run for his money on innovation. So there's a lot happening right now, and there's also a lot that still needs to be done. If you're here, I'm sure, so first of all, just so I kind of understand the audience, how many of you own cryptocurrency? So it's about 70%. Awesome. For the other 30%, this is a really good time to get in. We might go half from where we're at today, but I think a lot of the crash is done. And more importantly, price aside, now is a really great time to be starting a company in Las Vegas in particular, because we really are starting to build a support system. One thing that's been really cool about crypto and ICOs is that they're very global. So ICOs have many challenges if you're starting them in the US in particular. I would almost advise anyone to go offshore and move out of the US if you're going to do it. But if you want to stay, I actually think this is a great time to be starting to look at security token offerings. And this, I really feel, is the next big wave that's about to happen in crypto. So if you're bearish today on the industry in general, or maybe you're not quite sure on where things are heading, it's true. The utility token boom that we just had, and that companies were raising billions of dollars off of, that is going away. Are utility tokens across the board going away? I don't think so. There are just too many positives that they offer. One is their truly global nature. the world is not, we're at the last leg of the world really being able to finance the level of regulation we have today. Security tokens help with that. They may reduce costs in actually, like, you know, if I want to go start a tech company, maybe I pay $25K to go start, go get all my initial documents that I need investors to sign. That's a lot of money if you're raising like 500K. But with security token offerings, all of those things that you go to a lawyer to ask for can be baked in, and more importantly, they can be baked into every law around the world. So now you can raise globally with minimal legal costs. That is a huge cost savings. I mean, we're talking in the millions for any company who is raising money. Second, and I think the real question about where are utility tokens going to last or not is really what is the underlying value? Most utility, you know, one of the real frustrations I've had with entrepreneurs in the industry is their lack of commitment to providing investors with a great investment. Meaning, the token model should have a mechanism for price increase. And you know, unfortunately, the regulations that the regulatory forces that people think about when they're structuring these utility tokens almost force people to create a bad investment. Because if you make something an investment, and this is more focused on, you know, a US legal framework, but if you make a utility token that is going to go up in price based on the success of the company who's raising the money, instantly a security. And I can't really argue with that fact. It is an investment, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that equity and debt are the only good types of assets out there. So our pure cryptocurrencies that raise, you know, $50 million and give up 30% of their tokens and are nothing more than a cryptocurrency that can be used if someone wants in an ecosystem. Is that a great investment? I mean, if Amazon did it, maybe, but if a startup did it, probably not. Because to get the amount of transaction volume you would need to support a token model like that needs to be really, really, really big. At the same time, we all can structure utility tokens in a way that really clearly defines their demand and their supply to a point where, you know, you can imagine selling $10 million worth of utility tokens and getting all but, let's call it, you know, $100,000 of it fully staked, meaning people are pulling it out of the money supply, and you're creating, you know, a couple $1 million of demand a day for the token. I mean, that token has a very high chance of going up in value. So there aren't enough people today that are thinking in those terms, and to the extent that many of the entrepreneurs that I see in the space over the last 18 months are approached with those ideas, they immediately see issues with the regulatory frameworks, again, especially coming out of the US, that scare them away. So, you know, it's been a challenging environment over the last 18 months, and now would be a time as if you're looking at utility tokens that have been issued over the last year and a half, you know, I would be doing deep due diligence. I'd be seeing who's the team, what are they working on, what progress have they made, and do they have plans in the future if they haven't already created great investor value mechanisms in their token. Do they have that in their roadmap going forward? Which kind of brings me to where I think we're going next. And where we're going next is inevitably going to be security tokens, especially in the US, but I think that this is going to take hold worldwide, because even though most of us joined the space because of a real concern for the size of government, the length of government's arm, you know, ultimately every country has securities laws, and that's not going to change. So what our technology can do is actually fit inside of those laws and offer either traditional investments such as equity or debt, or we can offer utility token-like models, but ones that are being issued under the laws of every country. And so we're very early stage on this. It hasn't really begun. I'm personally in the process of forming a broker-dealer in the United States that will deal specifically in security token offerings and other types. Internationally, I believe that two token models are going to continue to be really popular. I'm advising a company today that is really working on a mission that I think is critical, and that's climate change. This company, Viridium, we have a two token model, and a first token is an asset-backed carbon credit, asset-backed token that is backed by carbon credits. I won't dive into the details of carbon credits today, but let's just leave it at they're extremely difficult to understand, and they're not at all uniform, meaning they're not fungible and they're very difficult to automate. By creating a fungible, automatable token, you can do a lot with that, especially in corporate uses. The second token is a utility token that follows an exchange model, and I think that there are a few models that still remain as really powerful ones in the crypto space, and one of those is exchange tokens. Anyone who has kind of like dived into the ICO space might have heard of Binance token. I think that token model is a really great model for how you can create demonstratable value in a utility token. And ultimately, it's just a cryptocurrency for an ecosystem. So, if I have one message today that I feel really strongly about, it's go harder. We're at a tough time in the industry. We've been here before. If you've been in the space for a while, I mean, this actually feels very familiar. And right now is a time to be hiring people. It's a time to be pursuing your projects, and also looking forward. So if you're raising capital today, it's not looking backward to how have people been investing over the last 18 months. I have people come to me all the time who say that they want to raise an ICO and they want to do a $100 million ICO with a utility token. And I'm just like, if you're going to have to rewind time a year if you want to do that one. It's really about looking ahead, because the question that any entrepreneur should be asking themselves today, and investors too, because if you're investing in this stuff, then you also want to be looking at what's the next cycle. And the next cycle is inevitably going to be more highly regulated. If you're in the industry dealing with this stuff, you're feeling this every day, that regulation's coming. But at the same time, that's going to create a lot of opportunity, because it's going to mean that funds start investing in these projects. It's going to mean that the industry grows in general. It means that Ethereum and Bitcoin are going to go up, because investments in cryptocurrencies into these projects isn't going to stop. So if you're feeling at all nervous, or you're feeling like depressed, as is very easy to feel in these parts of the cycle, I'd go find ways to get optimistic, go look into the future, build towards that. With that, I'd love to take any questions that you guys have.
Can I ask two?
Of course.
Help me understand.
Unless the first one sucks.
Would you let me know, or would you just go like that?
I'll let you know.
That's my question. When you were at this Rubicon River moment, when you said your friend pulled you back from AI, what was the play there? Why were both in play for you, and why was one or the other? What was going on in your mindset there?
Well, I truly believe that AI is the future, and in case anyone didn't hear, the question was, what was my mentality while debating between AI and going back into blockchain. And I really believe in AI. I mean, that's another one where you must agree that AI is just going to happen, and so many things that we do today are going to be totally automated, whether they're automated in software or it's physical automation that's changing things. And I want to be a part of that. What I was looking at is I had a lot of friends in the blockchain industry pulling me back in. They're the people who I really respect. Like these two people, almost no one else could have done it. But it was David Waxman and Yosef Kwan who had such I respect their opinion so much that I came in. The second is that blockchain to me is a lot more tangible. Like, even though blockchain isn't necessarily the most simple subject in the world, AI just feels so much more complex. And honestly, I'm not sure I'm pretty smart, but I'm not sure I'm smart enough to dive into that one and spend 5 years ramping up. So in some ways I looked at where can I provide value, and what do I know, and sometimes I think that it can be really good to focus on what you know.
Okay.
What was your second question?
I passed.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, very good. The second one is when you alluded to, you kind of said it like blockchain solves a lot of problems that we're going to be facing with the future of government, the future of regulation, and problems that are contemporary, big things. Was I right in hearing you that way?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's exactly right.
So I want to understand what exactly you were saying, because when you say blockchain, are you saying the tokens, or are you also including the decentralized apps and the smart contracts and the whole, we're programming on top of blockchain versus just the cryptocurrency for tokenization?
Yeah,
that question.
That's definitely an important topic that I find people talking at conferences a lot about right now. And the question is of all these things that are in blockchain protocols, apps, dApps, and private blockchains, do all of them matter? Is the future bright for all of them? Or not? And the answer is yes. I believe the future in all of those areas is very positive, and here's why. Starting let's actually start on private blockchains, because I'm going to spend the least amount of time talking about that. Private blockchains are going to be important because if you have dived into how financial systems are architected, I mean, they're so poorly built, we're talking 60s and 70s technology in some cases, and they're all just mashed together because the only way for a bank to survive is to merge with other banks and be too big to fail. So at that point, you have such a mishmash of technologies. I know a year and a half ago, I spoke to the head of innovation at Wells Fargo, and what he told me is that one of the bank's priorities, which had been given to them by their regulators, is creating a platform that allowed the bank to connect all of their disparate systems. Something like that, will inevitably be made today through blockchain. It's not going to be Ethereum network or NEO. It's going to be a private Hyperledger Fabric implementation, or R3 or Corda, one of these private blockchains, because they want control still, but also transparency. So that's private blockchains. That'll be big in its own world. The most important change happening is these fully decentralized blockchains, and it's tough, right? It's kind of tough to believe in it sometimes because some of the token models suck. Sometimes you're just why is there even a token? And if you're a protocol, meaning, and what I mean by that is you actually have mining as part of your platform. You can't have Bitcoin without mining. You can't have Ethereum without mining. For those, it's never really even a question on whether you need a token. which is why over the last 3 months, investors are all only investing in protocol tokens. It's literally ridiculous. I went to a conference in India a few weeks ago, and before that I was in Shanghai and Tokyo, and kind of in like back-to-back meetings and asking a lot of investors, what are you investing in right now? And all but one, and we're talking like, I mean, this is probably 40 or 50 investors I spoke to, all but one said, we're only investing in protocols. You know, people are trying to invest in something that makes sense, and also projects are trying to create an investable offering that like investors want to invest in. So you've seen the industry move there. I think that over the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to move back into app coins being very popular, because you really can't have one without the other. Like, you can build the protocol, but ultimately the protocol is fully dependent on the apps that they can get to build on their protocol. Ethereum has done the best job of that to date, but you know, there's no guarantee that Ethereum will be the most successful in long term. So and more fundamentally, these app coins and protocols that are fully decentralized are so important, because you know, every day new people are getting into the crypto space, and when I talk to these people, most of the time they got in because they have a fundamental dissatisfaction with the way things are going in the world, and these are true solutions for that. In the United States, an issue that I'm personally very passionate about is the fact that our elections are being hacked, and that there's this next election we're about to have this year. I mean, all the voting booths that people use were just hacked at DevCon 2 weeks ago.
By children.
Sorry?
By children.
By children. Thank you. And it's a real problem. And the only solution ultimately is a fully verifiable ledger that cannot be changed and is provable in all those same ways, so that the votes can be recorded in a provable way. The cryptographic processes that votes go through to decrypt them can be stored on the blockchain provable. Like these, you know, you can't do that with a private blockchain, because you'd have to trust the nodes. And there are many other, that's voting, that's just one example, but ultimately all these systems are gonna head in that direction. I hope you're enjoying this video so far. I wanted to break away for a minute to tell you a little bit about my company, Influential Capital. We can all support companies that make the world better, and that is our mission. We're looking for people who share our values, and if that sounds like you, we're hiring, and we'd love to hear from you. If you live in the US and happen to have a Series 7, please make sure you reach out. All right, let's get back to the video. We're now talking about how banks are still a huge challenge for crypto.
Yeah, so in February I went to the bank to open a bank account, and the name of my company has a crypto in it. So I got denied from Citibank. So I went and bought the woman, the branch manager, she told me when I go to the next bank what to say to get the bank account opened. So she told me don't mention anything about cryptocurrencies, just mention that you maybe sell merchandise. So I went to another bank and I barely opened it. So do you know any banks, so maybe I need to go to other states to be more like secure with my company, so not to have it shut down? And I had like some woman in this room, like you said, I had my bank shut down last year. So never put your faith. So
yeah,
do you know, any?
I do. I can follow up with you after. Again, these banks do have really high minimum balances now, but there are a few banks out there that like you can get a compliance approved bank account at. They're just very expensive, and it depends on what you're doing. So like if you're doing exchange activities, it's a whole lot harder than if you're a trader. What are you?
I have mining facility, and now I just do like consulting. But my ultimate goal is to have a payment system. But
Yeah, I mean, the mining's no problem. They'll make you take pictures of your mining rigs and stuff, but you'll be fine. Follow up with me after on that. Hey.
Okay, you mentioned smart contracts, which I think a lot of people are really enthusiastic about. I have heard it argued that, the beauty of Bitcoin is that there is no intermediary. There doesn't have to be an intermediary involved to handle all the transactions in and of itself. But when you allow a smart contract, and somebody's in control of that smart contract, so essentially you have put an intermediary back in there that has control over. Is there any validity to that argument, or what is your thoughts on that?
The question here is about intermediaries and are they a problem in crypto? Yes. Any time you have a smart contract that's set up that has a third party involved, that's a risk from us, at least a security standpoint, and at worst a legal standpoint. So it definitely brings things back to like the structure, the underlying architecture of how things work today. But I mean, it really depends on a case-by-case scenario, and leave it to talk to anyone. Maybe this includes you. I don't know, but anyone who's also lost crypto because they've lost private keys, and imagine like storing data instead of money that way, but losing your private keys. I mean, that's just like one basic reason why you start to let third parties come in, and there can be I think I would be fine with a setup potentially with like, I have 2 private keys across 2 of my devices, and then a third key is actually controlled by like 20 other people who need a 90% vote, or I mean, you can come up with really crazy stuff.
Well, when creating smart contracts, you don't need to have people involved. You can create an automated smart contract that just triggers when something is inputted into that smart contract.
Yeah, and that's definitely true. Like some smart contracts are under automated.
And then you could also have a group of people like release the funds of that smart contract.
And if you're gonna automate your smart contract, make sure you check out Hosho Group. Hey.
Can you give like an example of like maybe you saying that of government or local government taking advantage of blockchain and exploring it? Something that's you've seen that might have been interesting.
Yeah, the question is can I provide an example of a time government? What was the word you used?
Particularly local.
Particularly local.
Yeah. Either exploring or at least had, I guess, shown that they're gonna be trying to
basically taking advantage of blockchain companies. Mm-hmm. Yes, I can. So my last company was one of the early exchanges in the U.S. and we located it in New York because obviously, if you're a financial services company, you should move to New York. Worst place to start a business. Just one example even there, this isn't even blockchain, but I one day received a $50,000 fine from the government, the New York State government, for like being 10 days late on an application I didn't even know existed because it had to do with some filing about health insurance for employees. So luckily I had a really good accountant at the time, Amir Marmar, who knocked it down to $500. But in this time that I was building CoinCenter, this had to have been in 2013 or 14 when the New York State Financial Services Department subpoenaed across the board several crypto companies, including us. And a subpoena itself, like people who haven't ever received a subpoena, which if you're in this room and you're starting a company, like get ready. But a subpoena isn't really that bad of a thing. Like a subpoena is a request for information is the definition. The problem is that first of all, when New York State subpoenaed all these companies, including us, venture capital stopped flowing in immediately. So for 2 years, we had this this kind of like impending uncertainty looming over our heads that venture capitalists would remind us of every meeting of, well, I mean, like, do you know anything about New York State? Do you have a license yet? Like, we know you're gonna need one, so do you have one yet? Like, no one could raise capital. With a few exceptions, like Coinbase was growing so fast at the time, and frankly, Brian Armstrong was such an amazing CEO that, like, you know, they were raising, but even they had trouble with this. And they were based in California, so it wasn't like as direct of a risk. You know, it starts at subpoenas, and then it goes into the licensing. So that license that New York State, the BIT license that they created, was only given, I believe, to 6 companies. Meaning, and in the end of it, I think there were 13 applications filed. I mean, you're talking at the time, like, no one was making money, and we all had to pay $50,000 to $100,000 to lawyers to get our application across the line. And that was with me doing most of the work, not them. It would have been more otherwise. And these become real costs. And then there's a question on if you get approved, which most people didn't. So there are very real problems that happen even today, because when you're looking at any type of, and I imagine I'll be going through a very similar process now with the broker-dealer, where I strongly believe that we will get our licenses approved, but there's a very real, in the back of your mind, risk of, like, are they going to approve this application? Because ultimately it's a decision that they get to make, not me. And all you can do as a startup is try to address the problems. One of the reasons why I feel in a much better position today to be able to do something like that versus then is I just understand the process a lot more. So I understand where the regulators come from. So I never demonize the regulators, because they're usually concerned about consumer protection, and there is a need for that. But at the same time, like, I got to start my company and make the world better, and you very often face all sorts of headwinds from regulators and governments.
What state are you trying to do the broker dealer in?
We'll be based here. We'll be licensed for all states and jurisdictions.
So you're doing it out here in Vegas?
Yep. Yeah, we'll be based out here. Distributed team, naturally, in crypto. Go ahead. Sorry.
Security tokens, you talked about how an advantage would be that they would be regulated like worldwide, like accepted worldwide. How do you see that working with so many different regulations across all the different countries?
There are people, the question is, how will security tokens evolve successfully so that they embody all of the securities regulations across the world? There are companies working on this. It's going to be a really expensive process for them, because, you know, US alone, and frankly, I mean, I know of one protocol today that's only baking in US law, because they just haven't gotten to the rest, and it's like, they'll kind of give you the spiel that, hey, we're a security token that allows worldwide trading of what you're doing, and it's like, actually, no. But, you know, there are companies working on this. So each company or each country will be a module, essentially. So like US is a module with Reg D offerings, Reg A plus offerings, Reg S offerings, Rule 147 offerings, like all these different types of ways that you can issue a security in the US, like those can be baked in. Really interesting thing I was thinking about the other day is on Rule 147 offerings, which are intrastate offerings, meaning like if all of your investors are in the same state and the business gets most of its revenue in the same state, etc., you could actually raise capital with less compliance overburden by doing a 147 offering, and then I believe it's 6 months later, those securities become freely tradable. So what if you could provably show that you raised from Nevada investors? This is why like Nevada has a big opportunity if it takes, or really any state has a big opportunity ahead of it if it took advantage of this. Wyoming's the only one I see doing anything, is you could actually like form a venture community where you live, or if you want to do bigger offerings, form a private equity community where you live, attract companies where you live, and together that ecosystem and issuing security tokens under Rule 147 could raise capital in a much faster kind of limb way, and then 6 months later allow their securities to trade anywhere in the world. I mean, that's impossible today. Theoretically not, but I mean, you could never, no one does that. And so I think there are some really interesting opportunities there, which I really hope Nevada explores. And in addition to that, you know, we'll start to see Cayman law get baked in, all the different countries in Europe, UK, because that's no longer part of the EU. It'll just take time, and so any company today, if you're building on one of these protocols, one of the nice parts about it is that you at least know that if the team is well funded and they have management that like actually can successfully achieve this because they're that legit. And common examples are like Polymath, Securitize. You at least know that even today, if their protocols aren't perfect, like they're building towards that. All right, I think that's it, but thank you guys so much. Had a lot of fun and look forward to chatting with you after this.